breakdown. We're here at Market Market, Lancaster, Kentucky. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count out my ribs. I'll break it into my chunk, my rib section. We'll take our skirts off, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to count up the chunk and break off the 5 ribs. Count up 5, draw a straight line across. I'm going to take my inside skirt, this first one off, trace the outside of the muscle. Pull it out from there. And then this is my outside skirt, the larger skirt. Come from the top of it. Press this out and down. You want to make sure you're not going too deep up here. This is your sirloin flap underneath that. Just pulling down with the left hand. Seaming that out all the way down. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to count up 7 ribs and we're going to break this meat between the 12 and the 13 ribs. So then I'm going to make a flat cut from the bottom of this rib out towards here so I can get a nice steak between my ribeyes and these little strips. From here I'm going to pull the strip up. I'm going to throw it down to the side, leave that back. 12 and 13, follow the cut that we just made. That'll drop down if you leave this here, it'll be hanging, so you can break the stuff out. Our ribeye section here, we're going to divide it into short rib plate. This feather bone section here will be ground, and we'll break our ribeye off, make this into a boneless ribeye, and get our back ribs. So I'm going to make a cut with my bandsaw here and here to separate the rib plate out. I'm right at the end of these bones here. On your ribeye is important. What you need to do is to find the end of your shoulder blade here. You can see this is where your ribeye is going to end, come about an inch past there on this side. On the opposite side, you find your tail, going about a ½ inch past there until you get a nice ribeye shape. Going to do is to remove the chine bone on this ribeye. I'm trying to crack it off here, not getting into the meat. So you can see we got a nice break here. What you're looking for is a piece of separation between your back ribs here and your feather bone so you can get your knife in between it. What we need to do to turn this into a saleable ribeye, take the feather bones off, stay on your bones. You'll come down to this tendon here, this yellow piece, cut through it, and that's trash. Now the next thing we're going to do is define this layer of fat. You can see the ribeye here, you can see the separation. We want to leave some of this fat on the top of our ribeye as we pull it off. Trace this seam all the way down. Just continue to crack that off. Now here, you won't be able to leave that fat on top of your ribeye. And you'll just continue to trace the seam, break it all the way down. Pull it off here. Now if you want to cut bone-in ribeyes, you go from here. You have your back ribs still attached. Last thing we need to do to clean this up, get underneath your tendon here, this big yellow strap. And we're just going to pull this out. separate our back ribs. Like everything else, there's a seam that we're looking for here. You're gonna come between the meat and the ribs and leave as much ribeye to cut as you can. So what I'm doing is I found that seam here. You can see down inside, I'm not leaving any extra meat on these ribs. My ribeye's worth a lot more than my back ribs are, so I'm pushing with my thumb, creating separation for my knife to go through, separating this out and down. You gotta take this to the point where you can take these ribs and bend them back that direction while it's still attached. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna come underneath and lift these back ribs off. Cut boneless steaks, we'll take our tail, knock that down, and we're ready to cut our boneless ribeyes. We got our back ribs out of there. So from here, I'm going to show you how to break down our chuck. We're going to be getting our shoulder clod or brisket. We'll be getting the Teres Major out of here, chuck steaks, and some other stuff. So hang tight and we'll get right to that. Okay, so what I've done here is I've just turned our chuck over. What I'm going to show you is the basic layout of the chuck here. Your shoulder clod part runs from here on the back side of this arm right into here is where our top blade comes from. Our flat iron section is right here. Underneath of that, this is our chuck that we'll be breaking off for our boneless chuck eye roll. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to come underneath this quad muscle. Separates from the brisket. Right underneath, I'm just finding that seam so that I know I'm in the right place to come back to it. Now your arm comes in this direction and then runs over here into the shoulder. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this quad and trace it around here. You want to find the bone so you can stay clean when you're coming through. Then you find your shoulder joint. Come over until you hit the middle of that shoulder blade bone. So what I'm going to do, I can feel that on this side where my knife is, I'm running into the bone of the shoulder blade. It's exactly where you want to be so you can pull a nice section where your top blade comes from. So from here, I'm just going to keep breaking this down. Make sure I'm in my original connecting cut where I separated that shoulder clod up underneath here. Okay, now if you can look down inside of here, this piece of silver skin that I'm leaving here, this is the Teres Major. If you go too far down on your initial cut, you're going to bring that off of your shoulder clod, which is fine if you're going to come back and separate that later. But it's easiest if you leave it on there, and as you go, you're peeling back to reveal that. That way you're getting a nice clean shoulder clod. It's ready to go in your counter. So all I'm doing is following the top of that seam. And eventually I'll get to the point where I'm just pulling back on this. What I'm left with, my shoulder clod right through here. This is my top blade section. You can break this down and off. Here's your top blade roast. You come in here further. Here's your flat iron steak. There's another one underneath here. I'm not going to demonstrate that. You're cutting shoulder clod steaks through your counter. You want to remember to cut them the way that they came off the beef. So they came off of it this direction. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut across the muscle this way, because when the beef was walking, it was using the muscles this direction. So you want to cut across the grain. Alright, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the shank. I'm going to come in here where my shoulder muscle connects in. You see my shoulder blades here. And I'm just going to come to the joint there. lift up underneath this.
Cross-cut your shanks, break it here with the saw, you cross-cut this direction using your bandsaw, you get that nice soup bone through there. So this is just trim. Now what we're left with here, we have our chuck section here that we're going to break off. We have our shoulder blade still attached. Our Teres Major that we revealed is still hanging right here. You can see the silver skin. And we have our brisket. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to break the brisket off. I'm going to come down. I'm just feeling down for the ribs. Just like everything else, we're separating muscle groups, staying in the seams, breaking this down. Here is our untrimmed brisket. That's the inside look. Here's the outside look of it. You want to square that off. Take your fat. Knock down a little bit of this. Now this is ready to go in your showcase, go in your smoker, make pastrami with it, corned beef brisket. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and what I'm going to do is mark out the mock tender. So if our flat iron, our top blade is on one side, our mock tender is on the other side of the shoulder blade, the patella bone. I'm just going to mark this out. Good, so that it starts to peel back here. And I think it's easiest to see where your mock tender is if you break the bottom of it off here. You can see where that muscle separation is. With that. You need to follow that seam. You take it out here. Now this is your mock tender. Do not be confused with your Teres Major, which is the shoulder tender, and it's this muscle here is much more tender than the mock tender that we just pulled off. This is a real value cut. If you can learn to take this out, you'll recover a lot more of the value of the beef. So what we'll do is we'll just trim this up. Get some of the extra muscle groups off here. And this is your untrimmed Teres Major. Okay. We still have to remove the silver skin here, get it ready for sale. The last thing we'll do, we'll lift our shoulder blade bone off here. Just tracing out underneath it here. This is just going to trim. Now the last thing that we have to get out of our 4/4 breakdown, just trimming some of this fat off, is our chuck eye, boneless chuck eye. Comes right along here. All I'm doing is tracing it out. It'll come into the next section. I'm just going to make it nice and square when I break it off here. So I'm going to follow my first cut, trace it down to the bone. I don't want to go too deep because you can see where my neck is starting to break down here. And I want to leave this muscle here. This is the continuation of your latimus dorsi, which is the ribeye muscle. So you can cut these for chuck eye steaks once we pull that out. It's another great way to add value to your beef breakdown. So all I'm doing is finding these neck bones. And I'm just carving out around them. I'm going to find the part where they connect in down onto the backbone here. And from here, all I'm going to do is continue to pull back with my left hand, and I'm going to roll this chuck eye, or this boneless chuck roll, right off the bones here. So this is what we're left with. This is all trimmed from here. in underneath this tendon. Knock it down. Just go ahead and keep pulling on that until it comes out. You can sell this for soup. You can sell it to your Asian customers. They use it a lot for egg drop soup. You can sell it to your chefs. The collagen in here will really thicken up your stock. The last thing we need to do, trim up this outside edge. And then from here, you can see where your ribeye muscle, your latimus dorsi comes in here. You can take this off. Cut a chuck eye steak for your counter. It's a great way to recover some value out of your chuck. And the rest of your roast will just be cut perpendicular to the grain right across here. So this is your boneless chuck roll. You guys working with box meat are used to seeing these. And that should give you a good idea of what you can break down out of a 4/4 beef. Again, this is a boneless breakdown. This is reproducing box beef cuts. So hope that helps everybody. Hope it gives you some idea of where your meat's coming from. And if you want to go ahead and do this, I hope this gives you a process to break it down. Thanks so much for watching.